you, or you not attempt to put a stumbling block in any way or form to people who want to defend that madness. We all have freedoms to take positions. In any case, you are stating your opinion as much as I am stating my own. So I don't see where that should become an issue, and then you try to insult people that they are defending a madness. Secondly, this is all politics. Thank God, in fact, that picture is still up till now on my AVI. It's all politics, and in politics there is no morality. So if it suits you, you take your position and deal with it. If you are losing, then you either retreat and go re-strategize and come back. Right? If you are winning, you also people gloat. You see, at some point I felt like no, these guys are going for overkill now. When the state assembly felt like
Are you
you
there?
lost me for 30 seconds.
Go ahead, please. We can hear you.
Okay, good. So the state assembly, when they felt like the governor wanted to come and see them and they locked the doors, I felt like no, this is going for an overkill. You have won, at least momentarily, to the point you go to Supreme Court. So even when the governor was in a better position, legally speaking, he was gloating, he was making statements, he was doing all sorts, right? And so if these guys also now get a position backed by the Supreme Court, they also have the right to express themselves. However, in my usual manner, I think moderation is key. The same way I was preaching moderation when the governor was getting upper hand, right? And this is the thing with legality and legal issues. You never can tell. And that's why you always give the room for reconciliation. That's why you always give room for what if and what may be. In both cases, I feel like both parties have overplayed their cards. They have gone too far. And I want to salute the courage of Mr. President to have taken this measure. Someone said you are equating oil pipeline installations with human lives. My brother, the president is going to give account of his administration. Those installations will go a long way in defining his 4 years or 8 years, as the case may be. And for him, if he doesn't take it now, when will he? I also appreciate the fact that he hadn't let um, the impeachment proceedings or notice that is already brewing up go so far before he took this action, because then it would have probably gotten to a stage of getting the impeachment done, and then he just remove fire from all, I mean, from that. So I think for me, it is a
Do you
necessity.
think that he could have taken a less drastic measure? I mean, a state of emergency where he suspends the governor. You don't,
So
especially
I
since there
ask,
is no direct constitutional backing for that move.
say that again.
I said, especially when there is no direct constitutional backing for that move, you don't think that it is too
What's the
drastic?
direct constitutional backing? What's the direct constitutional backing? And in fact, the speech he made was carefully put together. He did not remove the governor. He said suspend. The speech
Mm.
he made was carefully put together such to make it clear that both parties were wrong. He said he tried to intervene, but both parties ignored him. And come to think of it, the president called these guys. In fact, I may look at it as three people in this conflict. On the one hand is the Minister of FCT, who also have big blames to take. On the other hand is the governor of the state, the incumbent governor that is. And then on the third hand for me is the state assembly guys. You see?
Okay, 30
So
seconds, please, so we can move on to other speakers.
So, in rounding up, what is a less extreme measure to take? He should have allowed them to go ahead and impeach the governor, or tell the governor to go and beg, because you see, the governor, in any negotiation that he will go now, is coming from a point of weakness. He doesn't have the ace. And the assembly guys were already showing him. So, what could he have done? I think, while I concede that all the political actors, I mean the main characters in this conflict, failed, I also concede that the elders in Rivers State largely has failed that state. The elders should have been able to quell all this. Unfortunately, the governor is not experienced enough to know that you don't dance to the tunes. I'm rounding up now. You don't dance too much to certain tunes, right? When he was being edged on, he could have given himself some brain and act in circumspect. Thank you. Are you the mic?
Thank you very much. Quickly, I just move straight and have Kingsley speak next.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah,
We can hear you.
evening. Well, I'm calling from Boston.
You're calling from where?
I'm calling from Boston, United States.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah. I just want to make the just quick point. I know last year I was in Rivers State in Port Harcourt precisely, and I left because of we got attacked. Some hoodlums invaded our hotels and made away with some of my friends' properties and all that. And why am I saying that? I feel like River State, right from time, has always been a state where things always get out of hand. But that being said, the case in question here is something that has to do with lack of democratic norms. In a state where the power tussle is very glaring, and also we as a person, has a very powerful audience in River State, and the current governor is somebody that has been an apprentice, under the Wike's umbrella, and I feel there's an adage that say you can't eat your cake and have it back. In politics, there is always those who we claim to be the godfather, especially in our country, Nigeria. And also, there is also a disclosure form that most of the amateur politicians normally sign before they get into the limelight. Like the loyalty disclosure form, which you sign, and in that form, you have to say how many percentage you have to return to the person who empower you to get into elected position. And this are being signed both on the House of Representatives, those that might be given appointments, and there's an oath you're taking. And when you fail to uphold your oath, and that means you have already decided to forfeit your position. And I believe uh, the current governor did all that because he wanted to be a governor, but then without knowing the consequences of what he was getting himself into. It's something that Nigerian politicians do. So he's supposed not to be surprised about that. Coming to the aspect of the president taking this decision, I think that if we look at the president said already in our country, not just only from Obasanjo, but there was also an incident in Lagos State when a governor decided not to obey the order that has been established by this current president when he was former governor of Lagos State. That governor was, booted out through a confined political malfeasance called primaries that end up bringing the current governor now that is in Lagos State, because that same disclosure forms were signed, and you have to obey when you sign it because your signature is there. You agree to the terms
You have 30 seconds, please, Kingsley, so that we can
Yeah.
move on with the
So
conversation.
I'm saying this is because I feel like I'm a witness of what is going on in River State, and I'm not surprised based on the action taken by the president, because we live in a country that is technically being run by mobs, not really public servants. So I hope this situation going on in that state will be resolved, maybe through this particular action taken by the president, and I'll be happy coming back in the few months that things will be quelled down in that state. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Quickly, let's have Mr. Adelanwa, and then Henry would follow next.
Good evening, my sister. Please say
good evening, sir. Good to have you join us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Could you please indulge me to make some certain clarifications? I think it is important that going forward, we need to include in our constitution that our ideas, our attitude should be based on our ethnic, religion, and tribal bigotry, because these things has affected people's thinking. Now, let us go back to 1999 Constitution as amended. Section 91 of that says that each state of assembly will have minimum of 24 or 40 members, right? Section 96, subsection 1 says, for any business of the state assembly to run, there must be at least 1/3 to form quorum. Section 91(2) says, where a quorum cannot be formed, that the House of Assembly will adjourn until that time where they are able to form a quorum. He now foresee a situation where there can be crisis, where, for example, what is happening in Rivers State, they cannot form a quorum. Section 11, subsection 4, said that the National Assembly should take over the responsibility of the business of that assembly. Clearly stated, the framers of our constitution foresee all these shenanigans happening in our country. Now, the governor of Rivers State, Fubara, has a commissioner for justice and attorney general of the federation who advised him to submit a budget for 4 members, where it is clearly stated that the quorum, they have a 24-member assembly. That is, it needs a 16 member. When that is not happen, the governor has the right, through his commissioner, right to the National Assembly, please come and be legislating for me, pending the time we will resolve the issue of whether these people are defected or not. What did he do? He demolished State House Assembly. He submitted budget to 4 members of assembly. These are clearly violation of our constitution. Now, on the issue of the State Assembly, I think the constitution has said one time that yes, the president can declare a state of assembly, state of emergency, but he doesn't have the power to remove constitutionally elected people. I don't think President Tinubu has the power to suspend House of Assembly and the governor. I don't think so. But he can declare a state of emergency to maintain peace and order in a state. That I am sure of. How the president is advised to do this, I don't understand. But for people to come here and say Fubara has not just destroyed, has not violated, he was in gross violation of our grand norm. Because everything that guy has done in that state has shown. In fact, there was a video where he said he, on his own, that the state assembly are surviving on his own power. For God's sake, you are just a chief executive of one arm of the government. And these are the nonsense that has been going on. But people think probably because it's their ethnic, because they don't like the president. I don't know why we cannot rise above all this pettiness sentiment and say the truth to people in power that you cannot just do this. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court says, that our constitution does not allow you to submit the budget of the whole state to 4 members in the name of what? There are options there. Take them. Tell us of rep. My assembly cannot sit. Come and legislate for me, pending the time that we get all these things. I think what the president has done, apart from the crisis that is going on, pipeline, for me, I think it is a gross violation of our constitution. you can declare state of emergency, but I don't think the only option where elected government can be removed is either by impeachment or by election. I don't think declaring state of emergency allows you to remove a governor and the assembly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me point out at this point that that same section 305 that the president quoted, drawing insights from what Mr. Adelanwa has said, it says it is only when the state governor or the legislature has failed to demand or ask that the president declares a state of emergency that he can now go ahead and do that. So actually, the governor of Rivers State had the opportunity when he saw that the issue was escalating. At his behest, the president could have declared that state of emergency, but it would have come from him. If it is a politically favoring decision for him, I wouldn't know. But he also had the opportunity to ask the president to declare a state of emergency in the state. Henry Kelechi, you have the mic. Good evening.
Yeah, all right. Good evening to you all and good day to you wherever you are. Um, I'm loving this conversation because in any space I go to, I do talk about these issues before it really happened in other spaces. Um, to my own opinion, because that's everybody gives his or her own view or opinion to this conversation. To me, before I would say any opinion to this, if we are trying to solve a problem, let's not be a problem to that problem we are solving. I do say this in any space I go or any place I am. Why I'm saying this is because there are a lot of things that are happening in this country. I'm a Nigerian, I'm a citizen of this country, but sometimes I do shed tears. Why? Because we are trying to solve the problem of Nigeria, but yet we still see ourselves in that same problem or trying to create more problem for others. Now they are trying to blame Mr. President. I'm not going to say he's a bad person. I'm not going to say that all his action that has been made or when he was elected is really bad. There are some things that he do that is also right. That we too we won't really, accept that this is what he did and what he did was right. If he brought a state of emergency in Rivers State, is a good thing. Why? Because he can't be in a position as Mr. President and maybe something start happening, lives and properties like what the other person said here start get destroyed. Just like if you go to the eastern region now, then you start seeing a lot of things going on. That's going to cause a lot of damage. So putting a state of emergency is actually the right move. I keep on saying this. Mr. President is a game changer. I'm not saying the perspective of APC view or stuff like that because I'm even against some policies that the APC has been giving out. But the Mr. President came out the other time and he said that look, Wike and Fubara should go and make their sort out themselves. You understand? But because Wike does not want to agree to the terms of Fubara, Fubara also does not want to agree to the terms of Wike. So these are the problems going on. Like they said, he was the one that signed an agreement with Wike. We don't know. It is between them and them. Why? Because that was how they got elected, and even Mr. President was also elected through those process. So if they are trying to solve out their problems, it shouldn't be making the rivers suffer that problem. But to me, the let me say what Mr. President did right now is also the right is the right position to do that so that it's going to help the Rivers State look more secured and when they turn out to take a decision finally and it favors this River State and also in Nigeria at large because it's also a state of emergency. You understand? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Henry. Since we are discussing the president's decision, whether politically correct or legally correct to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State and suspend the governor and the legislative arm. Like I said, this is a developing situation. And now what we have seen is that when former President Goodluck Jonathan declared states of emergency in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states, that was in 2013. Then Bola Ahmed Tinubu wrote a piece where he lampooned the president for taking that decision. Though the context might not exactly be the same, but I'm going to quote what he said. He said, "It is now abundantly clear that President Jonathan has finally bared his fangs, confirming what was widely speculated. By declaring a state of emergency in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, he has intimidated and emasculated the governors of these states. We are witnessing a dangerous trend in the art of governance and a deliberate ploy to subvert constitutional democracy." These were the words of this president that has now also declared a state of emergency in Rivers State. He went ahead to say that the body language of the Jonathan administration leads any keen watchers of events with unmistakable conclusion of the existence of a surreptitious but barely disguised intention to muzzle the elected governments of the state for what is clearly a display of unpardonable mediocrity and diabolical partisanship geared towards 2015. Interesting. They say what goes around comes around. So it would be really great to see how this matter would be resolved. And I think this is one situation that is going to put our laws to the test until we are able to get a final declaration as to how issues like this would play out in future occurrences. So I would have Dr. Von go next. Sorry, please, before Dr. Von, Bamidele Badmos, and then we'll come to Dr. Von Apochi. Good evening, you have the mic.
Thank you, the cable. Thank you very much for giving me the mic. Dr. Von, sorry, they said you can wait for me, sir. So
no problem. Go ahead.
I apologize for that mix-up. Garba, I see you, please. I am coming to you shortly, please. Thank you.
So I went to Salat Tarawih. So I was on this face. I just get myself up there, but I was in the Salat. So for the past 45 minutes. So please, kindly let me recall. I heard what Mr. Dylan said now. Is it the legal opinion that we are sharing on this? I don't think it really matters. We have the Chief Law Advisor of the Federation, Attorney General of the Federation. He has his opinion may be wrong, while our own is right. I think we shouldn't be oblivious of the fact that this decision took Mr. President for 4-5 hours today before they arrive at that decision. In that meeting, that close-up meeting, they have all the head of security agencies. They had the head of the parliament in both chambers of National Assembly. They have the National Security Advisor. They had the Attorney General of the Federation. And they reviewed this thing. And the stake in Rivers is not purely Rivers State only. The thing that Mr. President cited that points to inability of the governor to exert his position as the governor and arrest unrest, mark that word, is because there was a pipeline explosion in Rivers State. And Mr. President, in his press release, in his broadcast, cited that incident, that about 24 hours after this thing has happened, governor seemed to be assuming or feigning oblivion of this. And he's the governor, chief security of the state, the security officer of the state. And this asset that they bomb is not a Rivers State asset. Federal government has interest in it. Gas pipeline, it powers our Gencos. So now, and the same thing, this same governor has threatened before the whole house in a public statement that he will give room, he will tell the boys the time to strike. This one was marked, and that is the governor. Now we can have a legal opinion on that. Maybe the president doesn't have power to do what he do. Or you can equally have a political opinion like the cable just cited now, the host just read from this thing. But I can tell us This decision to declare state of emergency to suspend the governor and the state honorable, they have a section of our constitution that has been cited. If there is any lacuna in that law that does not give the president the power to do what he has done today, I think the actors in this matter, the interest group in this matter, civil society or whatever, they can take it up and charge federal government to federal high court. Or if we can see a room to go directly to Supreme Court for interpretation of our constitution. It's as simple as that. So people cannot be saying my opinion, I don't think he has power. Mr. President must take an action. He wouldn't allow them to start bombing everywhere. He must take an action. That's why he's the president. And the incident we are quoting of Tinubu as not a president against Jonathan or against Obasanjo, all these things does not apply here. River State crisis have been appealed. In this crisis, President himself personally appealed to Fubara. You will not be impeached. Trying to work with this state honorable. You can be together because all of you are elected. You can find a common front. Why is it difficult for them to work together? I don't understand. Everybody in National Assembly are not friends of Tinubu now. No, excuse me. No, get me. Let us get this thing. Everybody in National Assembly are not friends of Tinubu. This is clear. But today, he's able to work with NNPP there. He's able to work with Labour Party there. He's able to work with all the other parties, the SDP there. It's not that he gave them anything. So no. See, I don't understand. We are not calling out the right thing. Why is it difficult for two elected people to see a common front? It's not about loyalty to any individual. And we are not blaming president for arresting the situation. Who command security of the state? If the governor is looking that way, the other time they bomb they set the state assembly ablaze. So when the fire started engulfing the every place, thank you, Jere.
Thank you so much. All right, Dr. Vaughn, you have the
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Sometimes I just laugh when I see situations like this in Nigeria, and I say a lot of times there are two types of people in Nigeria. You know, very simple-minded individuals or people who are very, very intelligent. You know, and the biggest problems in Nigeria are those who are intelligent and do not want to speak the truth. Those who are simple-minded can actually be swayed. So I'll say this very categorically. What is happening today, the state of emergency had been part of the long game, has been part of the plan from the outset. A lot of people have cried for a political solution to what was going on in River State. And Tinubu had been very, very quiet. President Tinubu had been very, very quiet about it. You know, when I mean very quiet, relatively in quotes, you know, he didn't do what he was supposed to do because all of these are just a game plan. And I will say this very clearly to anyone who cares to really listen. The grounds for any state of emergency in any state in Nigeria, it's clearly stated in the constitution. There has to be, the country has to have war. There has to be war in that state or imminent danger of invasion of war in that state. Then there has to be actually a public breakdown of law and order that has safety connotation. Hear me? So you can actually relate the threat to oil pipelines as that, which is probably what the argument the president is making. Natural disasters, threats to lives and property. Of course, you can also have situations of public health emergency and all of that. Then the second step is there has to be a National Assembly approval. So which means the president has to go to the National House of Assembly. And if they are in recession, he has 10 days prior, or he has it 2 days if they are sitting. So the question I'll pose to everyone is, did the president go through all of these measures? I don't know. It's a brewing situation and we're observing. But I will tell you straightforwardly that what happened today has been in the pipeline, has been part of the long game. Rivers is a very important place come 2027 election. And Wike knows what he's doing. Fubara also knows what he's doing. All right. At the end of the day, all of the people of Rivers State are those who are suffering this consequence. And I will just ply back a little bit to the Supreme Court giving the order that
constitutional allocations to Rivers State should be paused. Fubara made a serious mistake. He should have gone to have even the Supreme Court can revisit their positions in Order 8. And Fubara made a mistake by being too complacent, quiet, and too laid back because Fubara is the current governor, not Wike. Anything that happens to Fubara happens to the people of Rivers State. I do not care about the two gladiators fighting because, of course, Dele Farotimi will always say, do not die in their war. But the people of Rivers State are those who are suffering. And Fubara is their governor. He made a lot of mistakes. He fell into their hands and he's part of the long game. And today, the Rivers people are those who are paying the biggest price in Rivers State. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vaughan. Indeed, it is the people of Rivers that are at the receiving end of this development, and we don't know how much better the next 6 months is going to be for them compared to since when Fubara resumed office as governor of the state. But we are optimistic and hopeful that this move, we hope that the president has taken, is indeed the right one and is in the best interest of the people of the state. We'll have Gariba Baba go next, and then we'll come to Mr. Tosin.
Thank you for having me.
Please take 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I think this Rivers issue, to me, is unfortunate. Everybody is throwing his opinion. It's very unfortunate. I am a core APC member. I've never joined any other political party, CPC, ANPP, APC up to now. But then I thought Tinubu will be more strategic and be more patient to be able to tackle the problem. You see, if you look at 8 years of Buhari, you find out that these kind of issues, most especially the insecurity issue in the northern part of Nigeria, the southern part, everywhere, then, particularly towards the end of towards the end of his first term to the second term, every part of the country but virtually has an issue of the insecurity in one way or the other. And there is no kind of insults. And if you can remember the way Wike was fighting the federal government then, if at all, the like of Amechi have to do the way Wike is doing because he wanted to take to be controlling the state even after he left office. The same thing could have happened with Wike when Buhari was in power. They can find their way to impeach, to suspend him or to declare the state of emergency in the state. So Tinubu has to be more patient and more strategic. I thought he can resist all these political issues and find a better way to treat the issue because it's obvious that he's more democratic than Buhari. But then it appears to me like the Buhari, the so-called dictator, they said he happens to be more democratic and more patient somebody than President Tinubu right now. Because Tinubu that is there been fighting for democracy since 80s or 70s when they fight Abacha, IBB, and Reyes to be able to bring us to where we are today. And now, a small thing, something that's less than a year or 1 year plus something, you cannot be able to tackle it. The reality is, the way I understand the issue is that this is pure politics. Forget about it that Tinubu is trying to calm the Rivers State. We have a lot of pipe vandalization and all those things when Buhari was in power, to the extent that he has to declare that state of emergency that Tinubu did now. Not this one that they just blow one pipe, one gas pipeline, then you come to declare the state of emergency, citing the crisis of House of Assembly and the governor. It's not fair to him. like this last speaker or second to last speaker mentioned that he's been quiet, he's been too slow. I don't know how to describe him again. The similar Fubara. That is why maybe they are taking him there for granted. Had it been Wike was in power then, you declared this kind of state of emergency, we don't even know what will happen in this country. So it's so unfortunate, and it's purely politics. Let's tell the truth to ourselves. It's purely politics. Wike did everything. We're in APC. Wike did everything. Rivers people didn't vote for Tinubu. That's the reality. I didn't hate Tinubu. I was in APC. I'm a member of the party, but Wike didn't vote. The Rivers people didn't vote for Tinubu. And Wike found his way by fire, by force, to declare that Tinubu won the states. So what do you think now in this kind of crisis? But I thought he might think twice. He might think twice, and he should be patient with the issue and call Wike into order, call Fubara into order. The issue might result in another way, not this way, by declaring the state of emergency to remove the governor. Not this way at all. That's my opinion.
Thank,
It's not right.
thank you very much. Thank you, Garba, for sharing your thoughts on this subject with us. Let's have Mr. Tosin. After Tosin, would come to Inzubechuku and then Asigo. You have the mic. Good evening.
Thank you very much for having me. The topic, a necessary or extreme measure. A short answer for me is that, in my opinion, I think it's an extreme measure. Um, Fine, both parties are at fault, the governor and the minister. But how do we resolve these issues? President Tinubu is a known Democrat and this is somebody who actually supports. But I expected that this situation would have been handled in a much, much different way. Um, if a governor, for instance, politically, if he's misbehaving, you can always wait for him at the point he's going for a second term, just the way they did to the former governor of Lagos State. I mean, look at Rivers State. The people are suffering. For about 2 years now that Fubara has been governor, I don't think they've been able to achieve anything tangible. It's just been one daily or the one fight or the other here and there. Crisis happening here and there in that state. No peace. And now with this, I just hope that anarchy would not happen in that state. Fine, what he did is fine. What the governor did was, wrong, unconstitutional. Presenting your budget to only 4 members of the house, it's not done anywhere. But still, I feel what the president did was also a little bit extreme. He is the father of the nation, and whatever he do, it. I feel it can set a very very bad precedent going forward. I don't want to see a Nigeria whereby the next president will just come and is having an issue with a certain governor, and the next thing he does is just declare a state of emergency, and send the military to take over that state just because he's having a beef with that person. So I think he should have thought of, the president should have thought of the kind of precedents that he is going to be setting. Although what the president did is constitutional, yes, he does have the power. From my own interpretation of what I read in the constitution, he does have the power to declare a state of emergency and appoint an administrator for the state. Yes, he does have the power. But should he have done it? I think it was not necessary. There are other means that it could have that peace could have been achieved in that state without just suspending the governor. But the coming weeks are going to be very, really, really interesting. We're going to be seeing a lot of happenings, but hopefully, and also my prayer is that there will be no anarchy in the states, that there will be no deaths in the states, because given the situation in the south, it can only be crazy. I can only assume that it's going to be crazy, but hopefully, and I pray that the situation is not going to deteriorate, and there should be a lasting peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tosin. Yes, I think before we moving on now, I would like to hear our thoughts on what we think about what will be of Fubara's political career going forward, do you think that by the expiration of this 6 months, based on the constitution, there is the option to extend it by another 6 months and another 6 months, but by the expiration of this initial 6 months, do you think that he's going to come back? He will be able to come back and reclaim, his leadership of the state? Or do you think that this is a move that would make douse his political powers in the state and across the country? Asigo Tamara, you have the mic. Good evening. Asiku, are you there? Okay, if you're not, let's have Joke. Nah.
Good evening, all.
Good
Uh,
evening. Good to have you join
I
us.
just, yeah, everyone has like seen the decision the president took. From what I've seen so far, according to the constitution, he doesn't have the power to suspend the democratically elected governor. He can declare a state of emergency. Basically, state of emergency is like bringing peace where there is like serious turmoil, maybe terrorism, serious breakdown of law and order. But that can be said to have occurred in Rivers State, because if that is what happened, then if the pipeline bombing of Bayelsa is confirmed, does that mean we suspend the governor of Bayelsa too? Does that mean that whenever there is internal political turmoil, we suspend the governor? Wouldn't that create an avenue for the president to have supreme power and thereby create turmoil in any state he wants, then use it as loophole to suspend the governor and then appoint someone there to do his bidding? What kind of democracy are we trying to set up in Nigeria? And then I see people coming up to say he has the power, he has the power. Absolute power corrupts. It's Tinubu today, it can be someone else tomorrow. And if we set that precedent now, it means that tomorrow someone else you don't like would get into power, create turmoil. That Lagos you feel like that can be taken, create turmoil there, take it, and then it's not nice. We can't give people that kind of power. I'm not saying Fubara is the ideal Democrat, but there are better ways to kick him out of there without spoiling the constitution, because that's the ultimate rule book we all should play by. And then if this goes on, it means 2027 election, everyone should just forget about it, because that playbook can come in Oshun, it can come in other South states. Because basically, it seems like everybody's counting their states. How do I win the 2027 election? What state do I need? How do I get it? Because that is what it seems like. Fubara too, he didn't play by the rule books. There are other ways to follow him. 2027 is by the corner. If you can't kick him out, then election, you boot him out. They know how they rig. Like the rigging thing is always an option for them. But you mustn't bastardize the constitution in order to have your way. This is a different ball game that they are introducing, because the governors can be blackmailed, like as a result of this particular template Tinubu just introduced. So, like, as much as you might think it's in your favor today and say he's doing the right thing, we should think long term the consequences of this action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joken. Yes, this is indeed a precedent that, of course, has been set by previous presidents, and we have seen it also adopted
No,
now.
no
And
president has actually suspended the deputy and the state House of Assembly. That is two arms of government
that
that he
that's
took out
that's yeah, that's
completely.
another
This is
layer.
this
Yes,
is a
but we had
this is a different level altogether. You're suspending the governor, you're suspending the deputy, you're suspending the House of Assembly, and then you're bringing in your person now to now run it. So it makes no sense. No one has ever done it. This is a different ball game altogether.
Thank you,
Cause, cause,
Joken. Thank
cause you
you.
can come into a state, suspend the governor. If the assembly house they are playing ball with the governor, you suspend the assembly and then you introduce new people that would come and build a new local government structure and then hijack the state. This is a different template that Tinubu brought into play.
Yeah, interesting. The coming days are going to be quite interesting in Nigeria political space. So let's have Mentus Ogu. Good evening, and then we'll have Dr. Moyedika next. Mentus, good evening.
Good
You have the
evening.
mic.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah. So I think that what is happening in Rivers State is a call for concern for every well-meaning Nigerian. Yeah, and then it is so, in my opinion, because we are, at a very high speed, gravitating towards a state of lawlessness, where absolute power is used absolutely. For me, personally, I didn't vote for Tinubu, just like I didn't vote for my state governor. I'm from Enugu, by the way. Yeah, and I was, of course, in Nigeria in the last election. And I didn't vote for them because of, the baggages around them, at the point of election. But I can tell you today that myself, and I know a whole lot of persons who didn't vote for the incumbent governor, would vote for him in 2027 if he maintains the pace. For God's sake, God has blessed Tinubu. It's about the most richest Nigerian politicians, if not about the most richest Nigerian. So I wonder what a man who has had all these blessings would possibly still be looking for. Is he looking for? He has been the president. He has been a two-term state governor. He was a senator. He's been, of course, the president of Nigeria. He was I think, president of ECOWAS. So he probably can never get any other thing beyond what God has given him. So why should a person with all this level of blessing now be desperate to the extent that you are siding a man who has finished his 8-year tenure? Then people are saying that there's crisis between Wike. There is no simple thing. If I was a president, Tinubu is to tell Wike, face your FCT or leave or go back to Rivers State and maybe start playing Rivers State politics. And I can guarantee you that, yes, this fight started between Wike and Fubara, but it's been taken over by Tinubu for a long time. Because if it were for just Wike, the governor can stop Wike from coming to, and there's no human being from River would have been able to do this to Wike. So the fact that president stood up and all of a sudden, this is as the Garba, the last speaker before the last speaker did say, this is basically part of the game plan. The plan was to see if they could impeach him. The impeachment wasn't working. Who even is sure that these people didn't even instigate the bombing of pipeline to use it as an avenue to impeach to take the governor off his seat? So it is a very dangerous precedent. And for anybody, I am a Nigerian, and if it takes a Fulani man to make Nigeria work for the rest of the entirety of Nigeria's existence, I'm of the opinion the person should get Nigeria on the right track. So it is not a question of whether it's an Igbo man or is an Hausa man or is a Yoruba man. My intention, my focus is for Nigeria, for we to have a working nation. If you go to foreign countries, you'll be ashamed to identify yourself as a Nigerian. We are attacking.
Mentus, if you could please conclude in 30 seconds so I can move to the next speaker.
So for me to summarize, this has been Tinubu's plan. In fact, it has nothing to do, as far as I'm concerned, it's no longer Wike's fight. It is a total desperation to destabilize Nigeria. And I pray, and for those who are supporting this, as a musician said, one day everybody will eat breakfast. It's a pity, but that is where we are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Dr. Yedika, please, I am sorry, permit me to go back on my words. I was going to call you next, but I invited Inibihe Efyong to come and speak on the legal aspect of Section 305 of the Constitution. So let him share with us his insights if the president indeed has the power to suspend a democratically elected governor. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes, please.
My intervention is going to be not long. It will be a brief one. The first point I want to make, for those that are listening, if you check my handle, you'll see a link I posted some minutes ago. That is because the conversation we are having now is not novel to me. In 2014, when a state of emergency was declared in 3 states of the north on account of the Boko Haram insurgency, there was strong agitation by a section of the political class that Jonathan should make it full emergency, in quote, by suspending or removing the governors. That was almost imminent, but some of us spoke against it. I wrote an article essentially titled State of Emergency Before You Remove Those Governors. In that article, which I have posted, my view remains the same. I articulated reasons why it is unconstitutional, it is constitutionally unfounded for an elected governor to be removed by president on the basis of the emergency powers under section 305. Now, some points are preliminary. One, the emergency powers donated to the president under section 305 can be exercised under certain circumstances. It can be either throughout the federation or a part of the federation. The constitution is explicit on the factual circumstances, the existence of which may warrant or abet the proclamation of a state of emergency, including when Nigeria is at war, the federation or a part of it, when there is an invasion of the country, or a complete or total breakdown of law and order. And also note that when there is an outbreak of natural disaster of such a nature that threatens the structural coherence of the federation or a part thereof. Those are some of the essentially circumstances under which a state of emergency may be declared. Now, in what has happened in Rivers State, the argument has been made that the president has declared a state of emergency. I submit that what the president has done, beyond the unconstitutionality of purporting to remove Fubara, because as far as I'm concerned to this moment, Fubara remains the governor of Rivers State. The so-called sole administrator is a creation of President Tinubu. It's not a creation of the Constitution. Now, if you are saying that you have power to remove an elected governor, does it mean that if the state of emergency were to be declared throughout the federation, that Tinubu can be removed as president, himself as president? Now, go to section 180 of the Constitution, because the Constitution is not silent on this matter, on when a governor may cease to hold office. State of emergency is not one of them. It is either by death, by resignation, permanent incapacitation, or removal pursuant to section 188 in the case of an impeachment. None of these four facts or circumstances have arisen. So Tinubu's purported removal of Fubara and suspension of the House of Assembly is unfounded. To summarize, under the Constitution, where a House of Assembly is incapable of functioning or can no longer discharge its legislative function, the only circumstance that the House of Assembly can, in some sense, be suspended or have its legislative powers taken away from it momentarily is when the National Assembly passes a resolution to that effect. The Constitution allows the National Assembly to temporarily take over the legislative functions of a state. That is not what has happened here. Let me finalize by saying that politically, this marks of duplicity. If the argument is that Fubara and the renegade lawmakers, who as Supreme Court has said did not defect, can no longer coexist, how come, and the president is now intervening to resolve that, how come that Wike, the prime architect of the crisis in Rivers State, has neither been removed as minister nor been suspended? What this speaks to is what we lawyers call male fide. This is an action taken in bad faith. You cannot remove a governor, remove the house, because they are fighting. And the big masquerade that is instigating the crisis is still in your cabinet. And let us not forget that Tinubu imposed unconstitutional conditions on the governor. Which country on earth does a president tell the head of a federating unit? Rivers is a federating unit in Nigeria. Section 2 says Nigeria shall be a federation. Which country in the universe can the president tell a governor that you cannot remove certain commissioners, or the commissioners who are openly hostile to you resign from their appointments because they don't want to support you, you say you must reinstate them. That is was a flagrant violation of the constitution. So let nobody pretend that Tinubu is trying to find a solution. He has further exacerbated the crisis. He has further undermined our nascent democratic experiment and has basically defecated on the constitution of our country. That is my contribution on the matter.
Thank you very much. Please, I have a question. You said that the constitution is not silent on this issue, but we saw that in 2006, ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo declared a state of emergency in Ekiti and removed the governor. Why is it that there has not been any move to, amend that section of the constitution so that there is clarity and definiteness in that regard?
No, there is no confusion here. Like I said, if you read the article, I answered this question. The Obasanjo precedent, I cited it there. And let me even ask you, are you surprised that the so-called sole administrator is from the military, someone with a military background? Why do you think it is so? Why is the sole administrator not a civilian or someone with a civilian background? It is because the very concept of having a sole administrator in a state is a creation of military dictatorship. What Obasanjo did was unconstitutional. And let me mention to you, that matter actually went to the Supreme Court. In the case of Plateau State of Nigeria and AG Federation, unfortunately, the Supreme Court lost an opportunity to offer a judicial pronouncement on the issue. The Supreme Court declined to make a definitive pronouncement. Why? Because it had become academic. As at the time the action was filed, the emergency had lapsed. And I'm hoping that Fubara would not make that mistake. I am hoping that by tomorrow, Fubara would have approached the Supreme Court under the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to file a motion for an accelerated determination of the matter and have the full panel of 7 justices to sit to make a pronouncement whether a president who is the head of the federal government, a component of the federation, can constitutionally suspend the head of another federating unit. What Obasanjo did was unconstitutional. You cannot cite, and let me tell you, why did Jonathan not take the same step? Why? Jonathan also declared emergency, if you remember, in about 3 states, including Borno. Yes. Why were the governors not removed? And you cannot say insecurity, because if insecurity is the basis for this action, there are many states in Nigeria today, there will be no governors. You cannot cite the pipeline that has been burnt. That is trivialization of the serious matter. So this is just political expediency and one that is very diabolical in nature.
Thank you so very much for sharing these insights with us. It will really be interesting to see this matter go all the way to the Supreme Court and see what judgment the Apex Court is going to rule on it. Thank you very much, Mr. Effiong. Mr. Onyedika, I apologize again for keeping you waiting. You have the mic. Good evening.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Effiong, Barrister Effiong. I think you have actually touched the areas that I wanted to touch on this. The issue here is clear. We cannot use illegality to solve an illegality. It is appalling that at this state in our national development, we are trying to poke the military by the eyes, in their eyes, actually, because after listening to the declaration of the televised state of emergency by the president, I kind of was asking myself a question: are we still in the military era? So there are 2 things that we have to clearly state here. Number one is that there is an insecurity issue, or there is the state of emergency issue, and there is the issue of the removal of a governor. These are 2 separate issues. So, and it must be addressed separately. So you cannot now use the guise of state of emergency to remove a sitting governor that is elected by the people. The people gave the governor the mandate. Now you cannot just out of the blues appoint someone to oversee the state of the affair of that federating unit. So my point here, what I'm trying to say, I think the media should do more by holding our political those who are politically exposed accountable. We cannot be trying to gloss over the issue. Otherwise, a dangerous precedent will be set. Tomorrow, a president will arise, no matter how long Tinubu stays. Tinubu will one day not be in the office. Tomorrow, a president will arise, and he will have a problem with a governor. And if the president can easily, by a stroke of pen or by a statement, televised statement, remove a governor, then we are gone. So what am I trying to conclude here is that I actually read what Barrister Effiong wrote, and I think it aligns completely with my thoughts. And the second point I want to make here is that I think the media should do more to hold our those who are in political office accountable. They should not gloss over this. I know for a fact that many media houses have now been paid. Sorry, I'm saying this, have now been paid to trivialize this. But the reality is that if we trivialize this today, tomorrow the worst will happen. So let us speak up and let this illegality not stand. Thanks. I yield.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oyedika. It's been an interesting conversation over the past 2 hours, and we have been discussing the state of emergency that was declared in Rivers State by the federal government, and the suspension of the governor, the deputy governor, and the State House of Assembly. Is it legal? Is it necessary? Or is it an extreme measure? And so many thoughts and insights have been shared on this topic this evening, and I am sure that we all have learned something. It is a developing case, and I'm sure that in the coming days, more happenings will occur that would unravel the mysteries around this issue. Also, this is a development that may set a precedence in our democracy and test our legal system. And I'm sure that we would all want to, be abreast of how this plays out. Kindly follow the cable. Be sure that we're going to bring you all the necessary information and details that you need to know about this development. We are also going to be holding conversations like this as the day go by, so that we can discuss the issues. Unfortunately, I am unable to take any more speakers at this point. We still have over 20 requests, but the day is long spent, but we would have more opportunities to discuss this issue. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you to all our speakers. We are grateful that you joined this conversation. This is where we'll be joining the curtains, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the evening.